Hello, welcome to Forest Focus. The end of the season is upon us with one more game to go at Burnley. Nottingham Forest will seek to eliminate the slimmest chances of relegation with a win. As we discuss how important the game actually is, we'll also talk about the future of VAR with the Premier League set to vote on scrapping it in the company of, first of all, Greg Mitchell. Oh no, he's not here. No idea where he is. So not Greg Mitchell as listed, but I'm sure he's got a good excuse. Second guest who's definitely here is Mikey Clarke. Mikey, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. That was good fun off camera. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. We just rang Greg, but no answer. But he was working nights, and he said He said he was setting an alarm, so I don't know if his alarm's not gone off, and that's the reason not with us. But not to worry, we shall plough on regardless. What's your shirt of choice there today?
Oh, it's the mighty Sorrento, Serie C's finest. Lovely place. If anybody's ever been to Sorrento and we walked around the football ground, it's proper little team. And they're doing well, and they got promoted the other season. So there you go, repping them a bit.
Very nice. I see Como got promoted. They've got a lovely ground on the coast, right on the seaside. To get into Serie A, so well done to them. Right, what a weird start to the show. Forest v Burnley, we'll kick off with that. Then we'll do a little bit of chat about Evangelos Marinakis' interview with the Mail, just around what he said about the City ground. We haven't actually spoken about that on here. Well, I have, but I haven't got the take of any of the regulars. And then we'll talk about VAR with the vote to get rid of it coming up at some point for Premier League clubs to have their say. Be interesting to see how they vote. So, Burnley, what's your just general thoughts on it? It feels pretty chilled out. Are you feeling relaxed about it or not?
99.9% of me is absolutely chilled because, like I've said before, if you take the emotion out of it, Forest is safe and everything's fine. But it's just that nagging doubt. Not that we'll get relegated, it's just that we'll have a bad day at the office and we might have a few squeaky moments. So Luton might score early, we might let in a goal, might be a sending off, and then everyone starts to panic. I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. And I'm hoping everybody that goes to Burnley can have a good day out, akin to Palace last year, when I was actually in Sorrento, weirdly enough, watching that Palace game. I'm hoping that that's the case and we put on a bit of a performance because, in a sense, the pressure's off. Like I said, we are going to be in this league next season and Burnley are relegated. So a lot of things are going in our favour. So I'm really just hoping that we go there, put on a performance, and a few people that are thinking, we're going to be here next year, we're not going to be here next year, in terms of those people that are maybe on loan or the ones that are sort of squad periphery, can maybe stake a claim and do something and get in Nuno's thoughts for the pre-season, which has a feel of being huge this pre-season. We've survived the horrible second year, which most teams get caught out by. We've somehow stumbled over the line, and I think we should celebrate that. Obviously, be very critical of the fact that we're in this position in the first place, but actually, it's the third year of Premier League football. And my God, if you would have said that to me a few years ago, I would have bit your hand off, regardless of how hairy it's been sometimes. So yeah, Burnley game. Let's go there. Let's try and enjoy it, and let's put on a performance and show everybody what we're about. Because it's at times this season, and in spells of certainly recent games, Chelsea, Man City, Sheffield second off, we've looked like a bloody good team. So let's go there and let's show them why we're staying up and why they're going down.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day. It was probably after that Henry Winter interview, which check it out if you haven't already. It was very well received. Too many messages to reply to, but. Yeah, I mean, if we'd have been offered 3 seasons in the Premier League, a couple of years ago, we'd have snapped everyone's hand off. So, yeah, I think this season hasn't been pretty. Although perversely, I do kind of now we're safe. I kind of enjoy the absolute terror and drama of sitting in a game just before kickoff, and every attack feels like it's terminal for our season, and every goal we score feels amazing. It wasn't quite like that on the Chelsea game. The Hudson-Odoi one was great, but yeah, I do quite enjoy the terror of a relegation battle. Now we are safe, maybe. So it has been a rough season, and we'll dissect it more next week. But there are some incentives, Mikey, like getting past 30 points would be one. 29 points is a pretty rubbish total. And the other one, does it feel like a fairly big game for the manager because he has his critics and you are one of them? And if we lose, there's going to be more critics, I imagine. But if we win, it might just take a couple more people on the journey to being pro Nuno. Again, from that Henry Winter, it was interesting hearing about him as a man a little bit more, because he is so chilled out and he is so quiet. He gives the air of not being that fussed. But assuming Henry's right, I have no reason to believe he's not. Nuno, the bloke, seems pretty endearing. So I am willing him on to succeed. So going back to my original very long question here, is it a fairly big game for the manager?
It is, in a sense, if you don't look at it in isolation. So I think Fletch might have said this at the start of the week. If we lose, he's not definitely going to get sacked. And if we win, he's not definitely going to stay. But I think it would be a mark in the sand around how maybe we can look forward to next season. And I'll be honest with you, I listened to that Henry Winter interview, which is actually really, really good. And I did warm to him a little bit. Like you were saying, he seems to have a lot of empathy. Henry told some great personal stories, which you just never know unless you talk to somebody like that. And he seems to be a nice man. I think he's struggled a little bit because he's followed arguably one of the most successful managers we've ever had. So people like me, he was maybe always starting on a footing that was a bit insecure. And I understand that. And I know that's kind of where my head's at. So I think whatever happens at Burnley, I don't necessarily think I'm going to change my view, but it'd be lovely to see what we're capable of and to see him be a little bit more dynamic with his substitutions and react a little bit quicker and maybe do things. Now the pressure's off a little bit, shackles are released a little bit, you might see a little bit of what we're about next season. I really hope so. And I want to give him a chance because there is this argument that says what Forest have lacked for years is stability. And, you know, if you look at who's out there, is there anybody that kind of jumps off the page that would want to come to Forest that has a CV that's more in tune with what we're looking for than Nuno does? I'm not sure. You have to see the market, but I'm yet to be convinced with him. But like I said, this is just a great opportunity for Forest. It's a great opportunity for Nuno. It's a great opportunity for the fans to have a bit of party. And also, like I said before, the players, some of them might not be here next season, some of them might not know themselves, and some of them have got a chance to put themselves in Nuno's thoughts or in the shop window. So I'm really looking forward to it, to how we can do them. And maybe you were saying that about you've enjoyed the terror. Oh, mate, I'm not sure I have. It's good when you
look. Not the right word.
Yeah, it's good when you look back on
embrace
it.
Yeah, to accept the terror.
Of course you do. Of course you do. And when you look back on it, I always try and think. You know, when you record games on, I'm sure everybody does this. You record the games on Sky, all the highlights, and you go to the game and you come back and you watch, and that emotion's been somewhat removed because you're not in the midst of it, and you kind of see things you maybe hadn't seen on the game, and also you're less terrified, you're not shaking or you're not worried or anything like that, and you know when they have a set piece, when they score, when they don't. I'd just like us to just be a little bit less walking the tightrope would have been lovely. So maybe just a slight cushion, and I maybe could have enjoyed it a little bit more. But like I said, you know, the record books aren't going to say it's been scary. They're going to say Nottingham Forest have stayed up for 2 seasons in a row, which is a great achievement because, you know, 2.5 years ago, we didn't even have a team, did we? Our best 5 players were all loan players, and we were struggling and we were bottom of the championship. And we just sacked another manager, and the crowd was booing and it was awful, like post-COVID. So we've come a long way in a very short space of time. And I do think Sunday, although you can class it as a dead rubber, or, you know, we could lose 6-0 and still stay up, I just think it's a real good opportunity. Now the pressure's off for everybody to show what they're about. And I am really hoping it and almost expecting a bit of a performance against a team, like I said, which are already down. And we went to one of them the other week. And for half an hour in the second half, we were brilliant. So let's hope for some of the same again, Matt. I think we'll win. I think Luton will win, but I think we'll win as well. And I think we'll get to, do we get to 30 points if we beat Burnley?
32 if we win.
32
if we draw. Yeah.
Let's get over that. No, go on.
I think Fulham will win, to be honest, as well. Thank you very much to Crypto Rider. Just £2 for the pleasure of saying Nuno in. I mean, one of the reasons I would stick, and there's no indication Forest are going to make a change. And if they are, then they need to do it straight after that Burnley game to, you know, give themselves the best platform, because kind of a lack of continuity is it's plagued the whole football club. And we can debate how much of a tough hand Nuno was dealt. I think he was dealt a tough hand. How well he's played it, I don't know. I think there's been highs and lows, and mistakes have been made. But I do see that he's. I think he's a good manager overall. If you accept his flaws that every manager has. But I was speaking before we started recording. I spoke to the Forest women's manager, and she was saying how she came in, and it takes months to bed in, know your team, ingratiate a style of play, and we've done that too often. I think we've hit reset so often, and we can't keep doing it in the Premier League. So we're going to get found out, and that's my worry. And if we have to sell Gibbs White or Murillo, and we lose other players who are out of contracts, we're going to have some inevitable kind of churn. I feel like give us a stable base. And if Nuno does badly, we'll probably be where we are every season with a manager under pressure in October. But I'd like to see him given a chance and given a platform and see what we do. What are this is off the top of my head, what are your expectations for next season, realistically?
Realistically, I just think, how long did it take Brighton to really establish themselves? Was it 5-6 years?
4 years.
4 years.
4 seasons, I think.
Okay, and they had one of our managers, didn't they, Chris Hughton, at the start of that. So I don't know what that says. But I think that is realistically maybe what it might take to get to the levels that we're talking, that we all kind of want. Well, we all want to be in the top half, of course we do. But realistically, our next jump is to be around that sort of mid-table area, not always every single day looking over our shoulder, and maybe dreaming and looking up a little bit. How long will that take? I think a similar amount of time, because I think you've seen the churn of the squad. So the only player we've got left since we went to it was right knees, because Bora's obviously on loan. So you've had a fundamental change of squad. I think I saw something the other day that said we've bought 240 odd players since Marinakis came in, which is higher than pretty much anybody. So our model, our business model, and you'll see it again in the summer and probably in January as well. Even though we're all screaming out for 3 or 4 additions, you'll probably get twice as many in that. And that's just the way we as a club currently operate. But it doesn't lend itself to stability, does it? When, we're having players come and go all the time. I just love us to keep the core of this squad that, yet again, proved that they're Premier League players because they've stayed in the division. And we have, as you said, Matt, 5 or 6 really good, young, up-and-coming talents that have had another year of Premier League football. So if we have to sell one of them, or even maybe 2 of them, to allow us to trade, I just don't want us to go mad when we trade. So let's say Murillo goes, or Gibbs White, or both of them. We know what we need, right? We need a centre-back, maybe even 2. We need a midfielder that can control. There's debates around Sangare. If Gibbs White goes, do we replace him or do we go with a 3 tie? Who knows? We probably need some options on the wing, and then we need a striker we can rely on for 25, 30 games. And I don't think we have that. So that's almost the spine of the team. So you're going to need 4 or 5 incomings regardless to step us on from a level that we've seen this season. I just want it to be 4 and 5 and not 12 and 13, and hope 2 or 3 of them hit, which is kind of what we've done. There's an argument to say we had to do that because we have no team, but I don't think we have to do it now. I think if you asked everybody in the comments or listen to this right now, what is our best 11? We can debate on formations, but I reckon most of us will get 9 or 10 of the same players. And I think that says a lot. We couldn't always say that. So I think there's a core there, and they're not 30 plus in terms of age, are they? They're all early 20s, 1 or 2 in the mid-20s, and they've all, like I said, got another season of Premier League football. So there is a lot to be positive about. Hey, look, we could be Luton. We could have not. We could have sunk. We could have gone down, and then we're talking about, well, we have to sell Gibbs White. We have to sell Murillo. We have to sell a few others. We don't necessarily have to do that. We probably will sell 1 or 2, but that will just allow us to trade. So I think there's loads of positivity. I'm just so glad, barring an absolute catastrophe on Sunday, I'm so glad that we are that we've stayed up and can plan and can talk about another season of Premier League football and can build on this squad, because it does look quite exciting. when you take the emotion out of it, we've got some cracking players, you know. So I think we should all be positive and just let's see what the summer brings.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day when I went. I was just wandering around aimlessly. No, I went for a walk, and I'll just take any kind of improvement thinking about it. I think Paul put on the comments, it was like Brighton finished like 17th, 16th, 15th, 16th, something like that. I've not got it in front of me now, but we definitely need to start next season with a better team than we have now because we finished 17th, so we need to strengthen. And if we lose Gibbs White or Murillo, then that makes us a worse team. So it gives us quite a lot of work to do. So any incremental improvement is good for me. I think one of the things about the club, and this is a positive and a negative, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. There's a real desire to run before we can necessarily walk. And one of the things that I think we're always in danger of is running so fast that we trip up, smash our face in, and end up not reaching the finish line. And in football lessons, we break up our team too much, we get relegated. And I think maybe just slow down, incremental steps, get to the finish line, maybe not as fast as you want. But if you look at, Brighton, a great example, Villa are a really good example, lay the foundations and then progress. And that's what we're doing. And I think we were all guilty of it, myself as well, last summer. Like, we're going to finish 14th, we're going to finish 12th. Greg's probably dreaming of the Champions League. Perhaps that's why he's not here. He's, scouting European locations already. But I think that's one of the things that as a fan base and a club, maybe we get a bit too giddy. But then I don't know, should you downplay excitement and ambition? Because that's partly what football's all about as well, isn't it, I guess, Mikey?
You've got a dream. Of course you've got a dream, but it has to be a reality. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with us saying, do you know what, in 5 years' time, or 10 years' time, I'm going to say it now, don't hate me on this, guys, we could have a new stadium potentially. We could be pushing Champions League, we could have 50. There's nothing wrong with thinking about what it's going to look like in the long term. It's just the steps and the action plan, so to speak, to get you from A to B or A to D. You don't necessarily have to do that straight away. I think for me, it boils down to what's the difference between ambition and tempering ambition. So I can't put myself in the shoes of Marinakis, who's an incredibly successful business owner in his own right, with a lot of money. You don't get to where he is unless you've got a bit of nous about you and you understand business and you know what works and how to sort of get people on board with things. He's probably looking and thinking, I've got the most successful team in Greece, not always been that way, but they listen to me and now look at them. They've won the league pretty much every season for a long time. They're the most successful in the Champions League, best stadium, best players. So he's thinking, right, I've done this thing. I'm trying to do it with Forest, but I want to do it as quick as I can, as fast as I can. I want to show people what I'm about. So I'd never have a go but ambition, but this is the hardest league in the world. Fact. Just is. Right. You can't compare it to Greece, you can't compare it to France, Germany, anything like that. This is horrible. You can get beat by anyone at any point. You can win 8 in a row or lose 8 in a row. You can't do that in this. So I think it just needs to have an understanding about where we've come from, where we are now, third season now in the Premier League. What is the next realistic ambition of ours? So we might have a 5-10 year plan to go down the likes of what Greg was saying. Now push towards the top of, maybe get European football. Let's debate a new stadium, all that sort of stuff. But is that realistic in the next few years? I would argue probably not. And in order to get to that step, you have to cement yourself like Brighton did. You have to have a squad. You have to be able to have your academy kids coming through. You have to have joined up thinking with recruitment. You have to have everybody on board. And we're doing really well to try and fight with these big boys. And again, like I said, we've stayed up. Just need to make sure that having tempered ambition doesn't mean you don't have any ambition. It just means it's more realistic. And that's all I'd argue. So after this, I've got a meeting where I'm talking about at work what we're going to do for the next few months. I know where I want to get to, but I can't do it overnight. And in order to make sure that I get to that point, you've got to put your building blocks into play. And for Forest, I think that is sustaining the squad, making sure we've got a core group of young players with high ceilings that we can sell if we need to. We have a style of play, we have a manager that's trusted, we have fan base on board, and then we keep taking those incremental steps. And I think that will serve us well. And it starts on Sunday. Like, let's go to Burnley and win and show what we're about and get over that 30 points and start planning for the new season. Let's just not chalk it off. Let's go there and be professional and go there and beat them and say, right, we're setting a marker here. This is what we're about. And those players step up, go away, have a cracking pre-season, come back and let's start on fire next year.
We went off on a massive tangent there for the last 15 minutes or so. None of that was in my notes. So we'll skip all the bit about Burnley because I'll be honest, I know not very much about them. I've said to Mikey, of all the Premier League teams this season, I've seen the least of them. They're almost never on TV. So I haven't watched much of them at all. So let's just go straight to Mikey's lineup. I'll read it out as normal for people who are listening, not watching. Sells in goal, back three. Bolly, Murillo, Niakate, Olareina at right wing back, Yates and Danilo in midfield, Harry Toffolo at left wing back, Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi in support of Chris Wood. So basically the same team as last week, Mikey, with I think it would be one change, Toffolo for Montiel with Aina switching wing backs. I'll ask you about some of the names specifically, but what's just any general thoughts why you would go with that team?
Yeah, two thoughts, and I played around with a few things. Firstly, I was debating having a back four, but then I remember that first half at Sheffield United, and it scared me a little bit. And I know the way Burnley play, they'll have a go at us. They won't sit back. And I think we're built better for a back three anyway. And I think you might see Nuno go to that. So I always think we look more secure with a back three, and I love the way our wing backs are given the freedom to go up and down. And also it allows the two wide players to cut in a little bit more and overload that midfield. I just like the shape. I loved it against Man City. I liked it against Chelsea. I thought we were brilliant for 75, 80 minutes of that game. So I go with that. And also in my thinking was the players that aren't going to be here next season, what is the point of playing them now? So we can't move up a place in the table. So there's no financial, we get a place, we get another couple of £1 million. We can't, he says, in asterisks, get relegated. And also, I think they've probably made their mind up about the loan players now. So Reina, Tavares, Montiel, I don't think any of them will be here next season. So I'd question the need to play them in this game. But I think there are players that he's probably still not made his mind up on. So that's why Harry Toffolo, I know he was partly to blame for one of the goals. I think I'd give him a run out on the left, and maybe Nuno can have a look at him for 90 minutes. But other than that, it's the shape, it's the structure that I think works. It's Yates and Danilo in midfield, which I think we'll start with next season, unless Sangare has an amazing amazing pre-season, and Gibbs-White on the right, because I think Alanga's dropped off a little bit, and having five at the back allows kind of Gibbs-White to just kind of do what he wants, really. He doesn't have to stick to that right. He can come inside like he did for the Hudson-Odoi goal against Chelsea when he came inside and played him through on the left. So that's my thinking. Not really looked at their opposition team. I know what they play, but I think it's all about us on Sunday. So let's start how we mean to go on, play the formation I think he's going to start with next season, unless recruitment sort of changes our mind. And I think those players, a lot of them will have a bit of a point to prove and want to hopefully put on a show. So yeah, that's my thinking, Matt.
I really like the team. And I agree. I mean, Toffolo is an interesting one because he didn't play very well when he came on last week. In fact, he played really way below what he can do, I'm sure. So I'd like to see him play 90 minutes to see if he can make a case that, because I don't think he's going to be our starting left back next season, but make a case that he should be our backup left back, certainly. So yeah, I like Toff. People in the comments, a couple saying he shouldn't play a back three v Burnley, but I definitely would, 100% would. We created loads of chances v Man City, more than most teams create against Man City. So I would stick with that. I think it suits Olorena especially, although he was really good against Chelsea. And I much prefer Willy Bolly in a back three to a back two. And I don't think it's necessarily a defensive formation. So I would go with that. And I do think it's interesting you say we'll play that next season. I suspect you're probably right. I think it might be Nuno's default setting. So if he's still here next season, and I think he probably will be, then yeah, I agree about that. Chris Wood or a One-Knee up front, a One-Knee looks miles off it still to me, but when he came on. So is it Wood by default, or even Rodrigo Ribeiro? Maybe he comes on for half an hour at the end.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned subs, because I was thinking, there are players that didn't feature in my starting lineup, but I'd like to see, and he's absolutely one of them. So if the whispers are right, and we're going to try and secure him, then this is the ideal chance to give him some minutes in the Premier League before he has the obviously rigorous pre-season if he stays with us. So he's one I'd like to see at some stage. I think Chris Wood against his old team. So that's a bit of a thing for him, and he's on a bad run, isn't he? And he just, if there's any team he can get out of it, it's against his old team. So I'd start him, partly because of that, but also partly because I think Talo needs a pre-season. He's not on it. He might give us 10, 15 minutes maybe, but every time I see him, he looks like he looks. If anybody watched the pre-season games at the start of this season, when we got battered 6-0 and we had players sent off and we just looked a bit of a mess, he looked like he looked then. Just really rusty. There was a few of them. Really rusty, maybe slightly sluggish, I think, for want of a better term. It looks like he's been out and just needs sharpness and game time and a proper pre-season. I'm not saying we've rushed him back. It's probably a bit of needs must, and maybe he's been chomping at the bit to get back involved. Who knows? But I don't think he's starting this game. But I think he'll probably feature maybe for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. Right, we'll move away from the game just before we do a few Trent Nav plugs. If you're not going to Burnley, then you can enjoy the day at the Nav, obviously. I've seen the TV games. Unsurprisingly, we're not selected. I think it's the 2 title games and Chelsea or something are on Sky and BT. So there's that one. And also Forza Fest is on June the 8th. Get tickets from gigantic.com or scan the QR code on screen, headlined by The Chase. And there's another music festival taking place at the Nav, and it's on Saturday, starts at 2 p.m. It's called Leave It to the Ether, and some of these names, Mikey, are absolutely sensational. Get your tickets via the Trent Nav website, but what have we got here? Airport Dad, Charge Mate. That was the main one. Airport Dad certainly grabbed me. Some of the band names that you have today, but yeah, that's those are the 3 things I wanted to tell you about today. So do support the Trent Navigation if you can. Oh, and the Saturday one, Leave It Ether, is 60s and 70s fancy dress, apparently, if that's your thing. Right, let's move on. Mikey's got to go soon, and we've rattled on for 30 minutes, and we've got loads to get through. So we'll up the pace a little bit and talk about VAR. Wolves have submitted a proposal that's going to be voted on by the Premier League clubs to scrap VAR, and it's really interesting. I was initially thinking, they won't do it, and I'll talk about why I would have maybe kept it. But when you read these reasons, you think it's pretty hard to argue against them. So Wolves' reasons include taking the emotion out of football. Basically, you can't celebrate a goal, lack of communication within stadiums, protests against the Premier League, booing the anthem, as we've heard very much at the City Ground. VAR no longer being about clear and obvious errors, lack of on-field accountability, refs always defaulting to VAR rather than making a decision, numerous errors by VAR, slowing down the game, the discourse around VAR, and finally erosion of trust and reputation, with VAR fueling, and this isn't me saying this before people jump on me in the comments, this is what they've submitted, completely nonsensical allegations of corruption. So that's what Wolves are pitching in these 14 of the 20 clubs to vote on it, to scrap VAR. What are your thoughts on it, and will it happen?
I'm still laughing at Luna and the Lime Slicers, I think, which was the band name on the previous one. That was my favourite. I don't know what they vote for. Yeah, go on, Wolves. I mean, I think everybody that listens and watches this knows my views on VAR. I think it's been a scourge of the game. I hate it. I just hate what it's become. So good on them. I think they're good reasons, but most of them are quite emotive, aren't they? And quite based around the fan experience and things that are going off in the game right now. It won't get voted through because how many do you need? 14 to give it some sort. It's not. It'll get 4 or 5, which is a start, right? Because if we have another disastrous season like this one, you might get 6 or 7 if somebody does it again, and it might snowball. So I am whatever the opposite to advocate of VAR is. That's where I am right now. So I defy anybody to try and convince me that it's added anything to our game as a spectacle or drama or anything. It's sucked the emotion, the life, the joy out of it as a spectator, and it's basically geared up for the TV audience. And unfortunately, that's kind of the way things are going. But even they're getting peed off about it now because of all the nonsense. So I think you've got a problem with those running it, the VAR, sorry, the VAR referees. But I think you've got a problem of how you implement the technology as well. I think the semi-automated offsides will help next season, but I just think it's something we brought in through people not being able to accept that human beings make mistakes and wanting to have almost like an automated view of it, and it's just been a disaster. So I hope to God that more than 4 or 5 clubs vote for it, and I hope it snowballs, and I hope we get rid of it. But realistically, can I see that happening? No. It's worth way too much money. There's so much tech and investment that's gone into every ground. You've got media that's come up just off the back of it, like different TV programs. You've got people that have been hired just to do this and just to spread the word. It's snowballed, and it'll continue to snowball. And I think if I'm honest, a lot of the argument that I get with people that are advocates of VAR is it works in other sports, like it works in NFL, it works in rugby league, all sorts of stuff. Something like it's a stop-start sport, which is governed for the TV audience. Football isn't like that. Football's 90 minutes of chaos, and isn't that what we love about it? So it wasn't brought in for fans, and my only worry is, Matt, that this list it's all emotive, it's all fan stuff, isn't it? Fans are doing the anthem, fans are peed off, they don't care about the fans, do they? That's why it won't go through. But I'll be really interested to see who votes for it. If it gets more than 4 or 5, I'll be delighted, and I want to see who these clubs are. And I'm really, really interested to see which way we vote.
We have to vote to get rid of it, surely. I would imagine we will. Perhaps we won't, but perhaps we won't. Perhaps our argument will be that it needs reforming. I don't know. There's a few. Yeah, it's an interesting debate. I don't watch much Champions League football, to be honest. People say it works better in the Champions League, so maybe it can work. My initial reading of it and my initial thoughts were that it needs reforming rather than getting rid of it because it's become so overreaching and so problematic. Even last night, you look at that one with Anthony Gordon. I mean, how's that not given as a penalty? It's more around poor implementation of the technology and everything like that. And I think automated offside would make a huge difference. The big argument in favour of getting rid of it is the emotive one and the fan experience, isn't it? And it's geared, especially for people who are in the ground who can't celebrate goals. You can celebrate goals at home, of course, but you know what I mean? You can't get swept up in that collective wave of emotion, and that's all being taken out of the game. But I don't think they'll get rid of it. I think you're right, only 4 or 5 will vote for it. And I'd be more in favour of getting rid of it if I thought fans would accept, say you get rid of it, the first game back, there's a howling error, because there will be just as many howling errors as there were before, because VAR statistically does get more right decisions than previously. And there's the debate around, do you accept more wrong decisions for going back to the original roots of football? And I just imagine that we'll get rid of VAR, and the first thing people say is, well, we should have VAR. That's what we're like as humans. So I think VAR is here to stay, personally, but it just needs completely redrawing of how they use it, and we need better officials. There should be specialist VAR officials. I think. I don't know. It's a skill refereeing. You watch these videos of people training to be refs. I've seen people like Prutz do it for Sky, and he's bloody awful at it. And he's played the game. So yeah, it is a specialist thing. Just before we move on, any final thoughts on that?
No, just I was laughing then. Yeah, it is, and I agree. And maybe what I was talking about earlier around what we want to do as a club and tempering ambition, but not confusing it with not having ambition. It's the same with VAR. So if they know they need specially trained people, if they know they need to get better, if they know they need to work through all the crooks, they can put a plan in place to say, we're going to work through all of this. We're going to train all these people. We're going to do all this. Be open and transparent. And say, do you know why we're doing this? You might still get the cock up. You might. But as you said, we're going to get far more right than wrong. And even I'll go, no, just get rid of it. But I might be more inclined to come on board a little bit if I saw any sort of plan. So I was talking to Fletcher the week, and he was saying about, just before the live show, he was saying that the Champions League is far better. They're quicker, they're faster, they're sharper, they don't mess around with it, and when they do, they're very specific. So it can be done to a level which is satisfactory. If you look at that penalty last night, Anthony Gordon, the guy ripped a hole in his sock. He stood on the back of his ankle. I said at the time, since I was watching it, that was a penalty. And then it goes back and you look and he's like, oh, it's kicked in, they'll give a penalty. They don't give a penalty. What did he, that poor lad, and I'm not sticking up for Anthony Gordon because he does go down like a sack of spuds a lot of time. But on this occasion, he's literally just been studs raked back down his heel, ripped his sock. He's in pain, and they go, no, play on. Blimey, what do they have to do? So there's no consistency. I'm pretty sure if that's in the Champions League, that's a penalty. So
yeah, it's a clear and obvious error. I saw Dan in the comments saying about that's us. Hang on, calling for more involvement from VAR, but I'm calling it to address what is a clear and obvious error. I feel that one is. Then you've got I'm trying not to use Forest examples here deliberately. The Wolves v Bournemouth one where Cunha's penalised for waving grazing a player on the touchline a couple of phases before the ball's in the net, and that's where VAR has massively overstepped its bounds. It's like that final phase of play, that key decision that they need to get those right a lot more. And obviously, I'm going to use a Forest example now because obviously we did see at Goodison Park where they got it so wrong. So yeah, that's where we stand on that. Right.
Or Matt, can I just say one more thing? Actually, I've just remembered something really quickly. So Can you? Everybody remembers the Willy Bolly incident, right? Gets sent off. Can people remember what they said afterwards? They said, look, at this stage in what we can do, what we can't do, we can't interject because it's a second yellow, even though it's led to a red. And they said at the time, it's something we're looking to do. And that goes back into my plan. If then for next season they go, do you know what? Because of these examples, it's Willy Bolly one. From this season, that's what we'll do. You can see progression. You can see them learning. But I've not heard anything like that. So if that happens again next season, we'll be harping back and saying, are they learning from it, or are they just placating us with apology letters, which we must have a million of? So just a bit more openness and transparency. And I'd rather not watch Howard Webb go on that programme and say, yes, we should have done better yet. Well, give us a list. But, be open and come at the end of the season and say, right, these are the top 5 things that we think we can improve on, and we're going to implement them all next season. And I bet I might go, okay.
I'm waiting for Dan in the comments. He's probably just tearing his hair saying, now you're asking for even more interjection from VAR, but he hasn't put it in yet. So let's move on from VAR. Final few minutes before we get to any other business. Any thoughts on Evangelos Marinakis' interview in the Mail? I said gave my thoughts on it at the time, and I spoke to if people haven't watched the video with the other fans of other clubs as well who have moved or are going to, then check that out. That's quite interesting as well. What did you make of what Mr. Marinakis said? It's obviously we're taking one paragraph out of a whole interview and we're making a lot of it, but just general thoughts initially on it.
Yeah, well, that was the headline. That was the strap line, wasn't it? What do you take out of anything you read or watch? You always take those one or two key bullets. And the 1 or 2 key bullets from this was he seems very keen, and he looks like he has his mindset on building something out of town, certainly not where it is right now. that has earmarked on it, that has all the facilities that he wants, that maybe he's done with his other club as well. And at the moment, he doesn't seem to be towing the thoughts of the vast majority of fans that want to stay where they are because they love it and it's home and it's means everything to them. You know, the rivers on the badge. I mean, anybody that went to that game, and even if you watch it on TV, that Chelsea game, you don't get atmospheres like that, like, hardly ever. And this is a team that's scrapping for its life. So I just think everything comes together there. You have the setting, you have the history, you have, you know, and it's the people that make the atmosphere. So there is an argument to say you can put that anywhere, but you can't really. Let's be perfectly honest about it, you can't. So that's where I'm at. Let's try and look to redevelop the City Ground and tick all those boxes that he wants, because he wants the best for Forest. He wants a bigger stadium, more income, more revenue, more people able to go watch the games. And I'm with him on all that. It's just a location. So I'd even be more receptive if perhaps that he wanted to do it, but just in the centre of town somewhere, or just maybe, you know, not as far out. But I guess we'll work all that through. In terms of the article, my worst fears were confirmed, really, because I just had a feeling that's kind of where his head's at. There's no questioning the desire and the passion of the man and what he's done for the club and the investment. I just really hope that if people feel as strong about it as I do, that we try and positively influence in the right way. And I think everybody knows what I mean by that. Demonstrate what it means to us. Show Evangelos Marinakis that he can have all this to an extent. Doesn't necessarily have to jump ship and move somewhere else. But I think the article was a means to an end. If I'm being honest, I thought, didn't really enjoy reading 80% of it, didn't really tell me anything. The bit that did tell me somewhere was sandwiched in between him playing a game of table football. Which
he won.
Which he won, of course he won. Which, which was obviously designed to show that he's a normal guy and he loves the game and all that sort of stuff. I absolutely understand that. But don't try and hide the main headline from this. And the main headline was he's very keen on moving. So it wasn't an article I enjoyed reading, but because of what was in it. I just hope that he considers all, before we start doing anything like this, considers all options and listens to everything that's on the table. And if there is a freehold to buy, just weighs it up, just doesn't, considers it at least and listens to people around him. And then I'm sure the best decision will be made. But yeah, I don't want to leave, Matt. I can't really articulate it any more than that. I'm sure 99% of people might agree with me, but who knows?
Yeah, well, we don't know because there's not been any consultation. You need consultation. I mean, obviously, match-going fans have made their feelings clear, and one of the arguments is, well, people who can't get tickets can't make their feelings clear unless it's social media. So, I'm fully in favour of redeveloping the City Ground, and modern architecture is amazing. I'm sure there's things you could do to add, even from those plans 5 years ago. Things move on, and I'm sure we'll think ways we can make it 45,000. And I've said before, I don't think we need 50,000 personally, but I would very much rather stay at the existing site. But we need to hear a lot more flesh on the bones. If a club genuinely do want to move, then there needs to be properly conveyed plans to people, because the drip feed thing isn't particularly helpful. It's just one of the things you said at the top of the show about earlier in the show about moving forward incrementally. You mentioned about a united fan base and pulling in the same direction. And this season, that's really not evaporated completely, but it's been really dented around season tickets, VAR debates even, and now this. And I think that's a shame. So I look forward to hearing a lot more. I've read the Nottingham Post article that someone's mentioned in the comments. I think an architect's designed something. But again, that's just one plan by one bloke. You need so much more than that. The Spurs Stadium was a 15-year project from inception to delivery. So we're at the start of the road still, and I hope we can make some proper progress and resolve it how I would like to resolve it. And I'm sure personally a lot of other people would, but appreciate that there's a lot of differing opinions on it, and it's a very emotive issue that's going to decide massively the future of the football club either way. So yeah, there we go. Right. I haven't given a word for the sponsors, because this is really, it's gone off the rails with just two of us. I've not kept a tight rein on it because I've chipped in so much. So second sponsor today is Home Move Estate Agents. As of course, if you are looking to buy or sell, then get in touch with Ben Sales at Home Move Estate Agents, 0115 832 1321. That's a landline number. I don't know if anyone even uses landlines anymore. So if not, email ben at homemoveea.co.uk. 5-star rated on Google, of course. And I told JJ I would give him an extra plug for Heavy Metal Football because I messed up the first one. So here's the extra plug for Heavy Metal Football. heavymetalfootball.co.uk to get your Forest related merchandise now, and you can get 25% off if you use the code Forest Focus. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see they've got some very nice 90s inspired Labatt's stuff and K inspired stuff. When was the green one at the bottom?
Oh, yeah. 80s, was it? Don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I recognise the other two, but I don't remember that one so well. People can tell us in the comments before we go. Right, you've got 8 minutes before a meeting. Any other business / final words before we depart?
Just that we did plan for three of us, which is why we've kind of talked a lot, because it's just two of us, but hopefully people have enjoyed it. I think just a bit of reflection on my part as well. So anyone that saw me after the Chelsea game, I want to apologise to, because I was fed up, right? And the reason I was fed up, right, this is true. The reason I was fed up is that last 10 minutes just summed up everything. The reason we're in this trouble. Like, we were 2-1 up, playing some brilliant football, and somehow found a way to lose a football game. How many times have I said that this season? And I was fed up, and I know, you know, we're going to stay up, and I appreciate that. And I was told Emily called me a miserable sod, right? And she was right, and she did. But the only reason I was fed up, but the only reason I was fed up is, and a lot of other people did as well, is because of that. It just encapsulated it in those 10 minutes. But when you calm down, which I do occasionally, and take the emotion out and actually look at it, I go back to what I said at the start of the show. There are so many reasons to be positive with Forest. You know, in recent games, we've outplayed the best team in the world. We've outplayed Chelsea, who were arguably the most on-form team in the country. We just keep getting let down by silly things that are all under our control, like doing substitutions quick enough, marking your man at corners, closing down. These things we can work on and get better. And if recruitment's tight and we're all joined up, we could have a really good season next season. So, a bit of a pep talk to myself here. Let's not try and see the bigger picture, because now we can do it. Now we're safe. Now it's time to take stock. We haven't dropped into the division. You know, we're playing Leicester next season, so we've got them to beat, and we can look forward to that. To keep an eye on the playoffs, see who comes up, and I reckon we're going to have a good season next season as long as we keep some of those core players. And if we do have to sell, we can recruit around it. But just an apology for anybody that saw me miserable. I just thought, I wanted so much to end on a win that we could all go out and celebrate and go, do you know what? We didn't need any of those results. We'd do it ourselves. But yet again, we found a way to lose. But so let's hopefully we're just going to put that to bed now. Let's have a good performance at Burnley. And let's end the season how we should have ended it last week.
It was funny in the WhatsApp group the day after the game when we stayed up. I'm dropping in screenshots of the third goal saying, what's this? Mark's fuming about tactics. You're fuming about Nuno probably. And then Emily's like, oh, just chill out. Greg's probably the same. And even Temps, who's pretty more on the tactical side of it, was saying cheer up. So yeah, it is good. It is great that we're in the Premier League, certainly. I look forward to next season. A couple of people are saying in the comments, is it the 92-93 third kit, apparently, that green one? So
it could be. That's a good shout. Yeah. Early 90s.
What was I going to say? If you haven't seen already, I put out a bonus podcast today because there's only so many days in the week and we're doing more podcasts than there are days at the moment. So there's a little mini podcast with Rick Parfitt on his gig at the NAV and just his feelings being welcome into the Forest fan base. So check that out. It's only 15 minutes. It's quite nice. He's an endearing guy. And we'll be back tomorrow with another interview. I won't say who with because I'll just jinx it, but recording that tonight. And then Saturday, an opposition preview with from the Burnley end to try and learn more about them, because as I said, I don't know much about them. And then post-match show on Sunday. And I will leave with this. We will beat Burnley 3-2, because eventually a 3-2 will go our way. Right. Have a good day, everyone. Great to have your company, 400 odd people with us throughout, just me and Mikey talking between ourselves for so long. So very good of you to stick with us. Mikey, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, everybody, for chipping in. Are we going to ring Greg now and see if he's all right? I bet he's asleep, isn't he? He'll be fast asleep.
Probably. He works nights, so I assume he slept through this whole affair, and we'll find out what's gone on with him. But yeah, like I say, have a good day, everyone. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the weekend. The season is basically over, and then we can look forward to it all again. So yeah, have a good day, and we shall see you soon.